Hello, this is Professor Tychik again with another message. Um, as You should have gone through the lecture material by now, viewed that. Just note that for the assignment Cardinal Tables number 2, very simple assignment. Open that up and complete it based on looking at this YouTube video. What I'm going to cover in this video is sales trends. So let's click on it. Note that we're going to be using the resource library that's available to us, which is up here in Blackboard. And we're going to hit begin. And here's the question. Individual assignment, read the doc letter. Okay, so we're going to open that up. And then we're going to open up the file. Here's some information for us. Sales per month is price times quantity. Cost per month is cost times quantity. Profit per month is sales per month minus cost per month. So let's open up that Excel file as well. Now let's view our letter here that we got from our boss. Okay, so occasionally through the semester, I'm going to give you different assignments based on a letter, based on my own instructions within an Excel file, or based simply on the video itself. So what I'm doing here when I say that is I'm trying to train you on your listening skills and understanding how your boss or coworker might give you an assignment or a task. So let's just look at this video while reading the letter. So some noise there about, hey, up-and-comer, here, great task for you. I want you to look at the sales history file and complete Sparklines, bubble chart, and a heat map for category summaries by month. Okay? And they want to see it in daily average format, so I'm going to help you out with that. Here's a unique formula that you're going to need. New minus old divided by old. So you're going to need that. You're going to need color scales, so we'll work through that as well. So I really want you to read this letter so that you can understand things. Now, I'm going to go through the material with you, but it's really important that you read the letter because on an exam, I could give you a problem where you have to create a heat map or a daily average sales calculation by reading a letter like this. So be very careful as well there. So there are usually errors in the data file. So here's how this works. I'm going to walk through the file with you to show you what I'm looking for, but you need to complete the file. So I will complete this video, but I'm not going to look for the errors with you. You need to find the 5 errors and then complete the assignment. Because in Chapter 2, I taught you how to find errors. So this assignment will have 5 errors, and it actually gives you some hints. Breakfast foods, sticky finger in December, zeros as well. So you'll have to go through this to complete the assignment. Again, I'm going to walk through the techniques so that you can see how it's done, but you need to find the 5 errors in order to complete the assignment for full points. You can certainly choose to complete this file as I do it and ignore the errors, but you're not going to get full points. Okay? So here's some information about sales revenue for daily average sales, how to complete it. So please read through this so that you can understand why we do this. Okay? So let's just get going here on the file. We're going to open it up. Okay? Canvassing the data. We've got a lot of data here. We've got all the way to R. So A to R. And now we've got 101 rows of data. So we've got a lot of data here. And what we need to do is create some daily average sales information, some heat maps, and some Sparklines. Okay? So let's go back to our file and talk exactly about what he wants. Okay? So complete a sales analysis using Sparklines, bubble charts, and heat maps for categories. So this is key. Categories. They do not want us to create Sparklines for all these rows of data. They want us to create Sparklines based on the category, the product category. So we're going to have to create some sort of a way to summarize the data into category format here. Okay? And then keep in mind that they want it. Okay? So what do they want it for? Okay? So they want it for sales, but they also want it for profit and for cost as well. So cost in here. So profit. So whenever you look at a sales analysis, what you're really looking for is, how well are we doing here? Okay? So that's what we're going to go ahead and do with our daily average sales here. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, we're not looking for quantity sold. We're looking for sales. So the best way to do this is go over to column S and create sales Jan. Okay? And so what that'll do is give us a new column. Ooh, I found an error. Ooh, I found an error, folks. Right here, that's an error. I found it accidentally. I didn't mean to show you this error, but there's an error. Remember, Jane loves her zeros. So we found one of those 5 errors. Boom. Now we fixed that error. That's just a bonus to watching this video. Now, sales January, we'll do sales Feb, sales Mar, sales April, sales May, etc. So we're going to do that all the way out to December. I'll pause this video and just do that. Okay, so I did that, and now you're coming back to this video, and you're like, oh, what did he do? Well, all I did was I continued with May, and went to June, July, August, all the way through December with the sales. So now our first calculation, we're going to do equals the price each in January times the quantity sold in January. Okay, so I got $1,354. How did I know how to do this? Well, if I go back here, sales per month is price times quantity. So I took the price times the quantity sold, and I'm just going to do that across. Now note, if I do it this way, if I just drag my formula, I'm going to get all these crazy numbers, right? $843,000. Well, the reason for that is I did not absolute cell reference F2. And in fact, all I want to do is absolute cell reference the F, because I'm going to eventually drag this formula down the rows, so just absolute cell reference F. Right? And so this will go all the way across. And now I've got that, and now I can go ahead, oops, I got to go right over here a little bit more. And a general rule of thought, so listen up here, when you're talking about over $100, we typically want to remove the zeros from display. So we're going to highlight all of our data and just hide the zeros, because we don't really care about pennies, especially when we're dealing with hundreds of dollars here, or thousands. So I hid those, and now I'm just going to drag or double click down. If you don't know what I did there, review Excel self-learning site, but I highlighted all of these. I moved my mouse pointer over to the corner here, bottom right, double clicked, and it went all the way down for me. Okay, so good, we did that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to pause this video because I want you to do sales, cost next. I want you to do the cost one next, and then the profit per month. So go ahead, I'm not going to walk through that, but it's the same technique. Remember, so we'll have cost for Jan, and then all the way down for the December. And then this time you're going to do the quantity sold for January, which is way over here, times the cost each. So do that, work through that, and I'm going to pause the video, do it here, and then come back to the video when you've done that. Okay, and so I'm back. I finished cost, and now I'm going to do profit. Profit's a little easier because now all we have to do is take our price, our sales for January that we've already calculated in column S, minus our cost for January in column AE, and now we've got our profit. Now this one you can drag across, don't need to worry about absolute cell references, and then double click down, and now we have our profit. Okay, so now we've completed the requirements to calculate all this stuff out. Now we get to summarize and categorize. Okay, so what do you think we're going to do here? Okay. So we can do a couple of things. We could create a pivot table. We could do a bunch of sum ifs, and we could do it multiple ways. But what I'm going to do, because we need to create a heat map and we need to create spark lines, we're going to do this with the sum if function. Okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new sheet called summary, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to collect all of my product categories I'm going to copy column D, going to take it over to summary. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep it highlighted and go up to data and remove duplicates. So I'm going to remove the duplicates, make sure I clicked on that one, remove duplicates, and I only have 6 values remaining. So what I'm going to do is total sales, total cost, and total profit. Okay, that's one way we could summarize this data. But we have to look, we have to see, is this what the assignment's asking for? Okay, so what it's looking for is by month. Okay, so what I want to go back to is I want to do total sales January, total sales February, total sales March, and keep going all the way across. Okay, so I'll go ahead, create that. Okay, so I've created that, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a sum if. Okay, so sum if, remember that's in the Excel self-learning site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect my range, which is going to be that product category, column D, going to hit comma, and I'm going to look for beverage within that column D. Once I find it, what is the column I'm going to sum? Well, that's that formula we created over here in column S. Okay, so what we just did there is we basically did a sum if that's going to find all of the beverage categories, and it's going to sum up the sales for each product in the beverage category. Okay, so I'm just going to drop this down, and that's good. Now, I could drag this across, but again, we're going to need absolute cell references here. So we're going to need a lot of them. So first, column D has to stay the same because in the other sheet history file, column D is where everything is located. We want to keep the column for A in this sheet. We're going to move down rows, so we want to use that. But also, we're going to lock in S because that's where our sales figure is. Sorry, take that back. We're not going to lock in S because we're going to want to move that with months. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so move that down, across, and there we go. Now we can drag this down. Whoops. And now we have our sales data. Okay. Now, what I want you to do now is you can create a bubble chart, heat map, and all that stuff there. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do these techniques here. So let's go up to the resource library. So we're going to leave this thing right here. We'll come back to it. Get our external data, which is number of business days. And we're in 2015, remember. That's what our file is. And you can see here by month, we've got our number of business days. So we're going to move this over here so we can see both sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a row in row 1. And I'm going to put in 22. I'm going to put in 20 for February, 22, 22. And I'm just going to keep going across here. So May is 21, 22, 23. Be very careful that you're not doing this too fast, that you lose sight of the column that you're in. But I'm just going to keep going here. Perfect. Okay. So this is daily average sales technique. Now, create a copy of this down here. Just create a nice copy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my B3, I'm going to take the total sales for January and divide it by the number of days we were open in January. So dividing it by the 22. So what this says is on average each day that I'm open, I sell $3,500 worth of beverages in January. Okay? But I'm going to absolute cell reference that, and I'm actually going to cell reference the row this time and not the column. So B1 is going to be referenced there because I want to lock in that row 1, but I want to move with the column. And the reason for that is because I'm going to move down here and do the same calculation. And now I'm going to drag that formula over. Okay? And don't worry, there's going to be a lot of decimals here. And then just bring that down there for us. Okay? So now I've got my daily average sales. Now, why are daily average sales important? Well, when you're comparing 2 months, I mean, look at here. Just look at this, for example. Beautiful example here when we look at beverage sales for January versus February. Now, if we look here in B3 and C3, you might say, wow, look at January. Look how great January is compared to February. February sales are down by $7,000. They're down by over 10%. That's not good. Well, if you look at daily average sales, February is actually higher by $40. Now, the reason for that is because January had 2 extra selling days compared to February. So it's not always fair or accurate to say that January was better than February because according to daily average, February is better. And the reason is, again, we can't compare 22 selling days versus 20 selling days. That's not a fair calculation or comparison. So what would be more accurate is to compare these 22 selling days here with this one here. So June and 22 selling days, but it's down over $1,000 compared to March or April. So the better assessment would be to study daily average sales so that we're comparing apples to apples, the same number of selling days out there. So that's why that's important. Okay? Now, the next step, we want to create some sparklines. We don't need this anymore. So just hide it, because if I delete it, these are active formulas, so it'll all give like reference errors and stuff. So we're just going to hide it. We're going to highlight row 1 through 9 here, and we're just going to hide it. Okay. Now, if you look, I've got to divide by y. Let's just double check. Okay. So I just noticed we've got an error here. Keep in mind there could be errors in this file. So for December for gambling, we've got an error. Okay, so let's look down here, not available. Okay, so what this means is we don't have the data available. Now, if you look at your sheet for the assignment, you're going to find lottery. There we go, lottery, December information for lottery. So do something with it. What that means is I'm asking you, the student, to do something with this. You can put zeros in here, or you can use the average of the previous couple of months, or you can just say, let's assume we sold the same amount. So let's just go zeros for now. And now we got rid of our error. As you can see, I highlighted it before. I'm just going to unhighlight it because that's not good data ink. So remember, I'm grading you on data ink as well. So that's poor data ink to leave that in there. We got zeros, that's okay, as long as we understand it. So again, look back at the integrity video on the lecture. As long as we can understand and explain why we have a 0 in there, then we're good to go. But the moment we can't and the boss asks you, then you might as well have not done the work because you lost all credibility with your boss if you can't explain what you did. Okay? So be very careful. So now let's create some sparklines. We're going to go into N3. Again, if you followed along exactly how I did this, then we're in N3. At this point, sometimes students do a different route. They keep the data, they don't hide it. They don't hide, row 2 through whatever, that kind of thing. So we're just going to do that here. We're just going to hide it. And now we're in N11. So we're going to create our sparkline here. So we're going to go up to Insert. And here's our sparklines, but let's create a line chart because we're talking about a trend line. So the data range is going to be January all through December. Be mindful if you ever have a total calculation over an N or somewhere else that you don't want that in your sparkline. Location, by default, Excel tries to put it in somewhere that you already have your cell activated. So it did it correctly here, but just be mindful that sometimes it might suggest the wrong spot. So hit OK, and I've got a sparkline, so it's a nice little chart. Beautiful thing about sparklines is we can just drag it down and it'll show our charts. So we can bold these things, make them look a little better. We can change the color, those kinds of things as well. We can do high points and low points. They're hard to read, but you can do different things to them as well. When you go into the design section, you can put markers in, last point, first point, negative points if there's any, all kinds of fun stuff there. So just be mindful of the different ways. There's different types as well that might be useful, but we're just going to go with the line itself here. You could put in the word trend just to let people know what you're talking about here as well. And of course, keep in mind I've not data inked this. I'm going to require that you data ink. What I mean by that is be mindful of what we're doing here, just like we covered in this chapter already. So just as an example, I data inked this a little bit, but all of your assignments going forward, again, look at chapter or page 4 of the syllabus. All this stuff needs to be data inked up as well here. So just again, be mindful of how this all works. So a nice little data ink there as well. So we're just going to continue with this data ink and move it so that it all looks a little more uniform. We might even, put in, something like that there. But a nice little data ink. And this is our daily average sales. So you might want to put in a new row here called daily average sales, just so your user knows what you're looking at. And we're gonna create a merge here. Oops. So okay, so let's see here. I'm not sure why that did that, but we'll try it again here. I think it. Oh, I know why. Because we've got some hidden rows there, so it's confused. So there we go. We had to unhide those because it was confused by the rows that we hid. So we're going to hide that now again. And now we got our daily average sales. Just data ink this up to match everything else. So we got a nice little table here. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is what's called a heat map. Okay. So a heat map, what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of these values and we go up to conditional formatting and we're going to go down to color scales. Now, when you're watching this video, you might not be able to see everything, and that's because of the integrity recording. But I highlighted all the data. I'll do it again. I highlighted all the data. I went up to conditional formatting. I went to color scales, and then I'm just playing around with the different color schemes. And what we typically like to do is hot and cold. So higher the values, the hotter they are, and the colder they are with blue. Now, your company might differ on that. So let's just go ahead and just pick one. And what we'll pick is that first one. We'll just do green is good, red is bad, and yellow is in between. So this is a heat map. And what this means is this shows the bad performance with our products. Now, one thing I want you to note is these are all red. And that's because we're comparing all of these other numbers. So let's go back. I'm just going to undo everything. I'm going to create a conditional format, but this time for each category. So I highlighted each category's row, and I went into color scales, and I did click on that first one. So now it shows the good months versus the bad month, just for beverages. I'm going to go in and do it again. So I'll show you this one more time. Go to color scales, click that first one, and I'm going to pause the video and then just have you work on that. Okay, I'm back. So I did the color scales for all of these, and it's a nice little heat map. And so now we're comparing. So look at here. These were all red before, but now we've got some very bad months for daily average sales for hygiene, and then one really good month is November. So this is an example of a heat map done category by category for you as well there. So, okay. One last thing that we have to work on, and let me just pause for a moment. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is ask you to do proper naming conventions, find those errors, and upload the file. Now, when you find those errors, your numbers could differ somewhat. So just be mindful of that. That's your task now. I'm not going to ask you to do a bubble chart. So do not worry about the bubble chart for this assignment and upload when complete. Thank you.